and welcome to adh-fishing-tv. My name is Morten Valeur and I come from Denmark. The fly I'll be doing now is a small caddis pattern. It's not really my invention, it's a copy of an old American fly called the bullet-head muddler. The only thing I've done is downsized it to maybe size 10 to 16 or 18 and I added a few rubber legs. But that's not really necessary, I just think it's a little cool feature to have rubber legs on it as well. It's a really easy pattern to tie and it's a fly you can fill your box with quite easily. So hang on and see how we are doing this fly. What I will do now is a small caddis pattern, which is one of the most important insects we have in northern German and Danish and Scandinavian waters. Actually, if you look at Scandinavia, caddis flies is maybe 85% of the food that trout and grayling eat, so it's a really important pattern to have in your fly box. And the one we'll be making here is a really easy one, made of a bit of deer hair and some dubbing, that's all. Pretty easy pattern to tie actually. The hook I'm using is Tiemco 200R. You can use other ones as well, but I prefer this one. And I tie this pattern from size 10 down to size 16 and sometimes even size 8, but I prefer other ones when I tie size 8, but I'll get back to that later. Size 10 is the one I'm using now because it's easier to see when you're watching this video. I'll just put in the hook here. The dubbing is just a dry fly dubbing. You can use whatever you have at home, but the one I'm using here is called Superfine. It's tan colored, just need a little bit of that. And the thread is tan or brown. I'll not be starting the fly exactly at the hook eye. I'll be starting maybe 4 or 5 millimeters back from the hook eye and then move. I'll tie backwards here, like that. The reason why I keep this open, I'll show that later. It's we need to put in some deer hair there, and I prefer to have a really smooth and nice hook shank without any tying thread on it. Just go a little bit down here where it starts to bend a little bit. That would be okay, because if you look at the back part of the caddis fly, it will have a slightly bend there as well. So if you can imitate that, that will be fine. I'm not sure that the fish will ever notice that, but we're not always tying for the fish, we're tying for ourselves as well. The super fine dubbing is really easy to use. It's not really, it's very even, so it's easy to put on the thread. So I just make a long, thin dubbing and then push it on or dub it on the thread. You need to be quite firm here to get a really nice dubbing thread. Always in the same direction, always that direction, then you loosen up and then do it like that. Always in the same direction. A little bit thinner here than here, so you get a taper. I'll move the dubbing towards the hook, and then I need to put on my glasses because this is a small fly. Oh, there it is. And just help the dubbing a little bit by using your finger in your left hand to move the dubbing a little bit. You need to, it doesn't really matter if this is perfectly made, but it looks nice when it's smoothly tapered and all that. I think that would be okay, maybe just one turn more. Still need 4 or 5 millimeters here, bare shank, so I'll just pull off the rest of the dubbing. Maybe I will do like that. So, yeah, that's a relatively smooth body. As I said, I'm not sure if the fish will notice this, but I'm I'm satisfied. For the wing on this fly, we'll use some CDC. You need to find some really long CDC feathers with some long fibers. You can buy these select, so it's not, you don't have to go through a whole gram of CDC to find this. And what I would do is I would just cut off, I take 2 feathers and I'll just cut off one side of the feather, so I'll get a good bunch of long fibers, just like that. Take my scissor and then cut as close to the feather stem as possible. So, and I'll just compress the bunch so I have a nice bunch of CDC. I'll pull out the longest fibers because we don't need to have them there, but there's not that many. Normally it's the other way around, it's mostly short feathers. And then I need to cut the back end of the feathers even. I'll just tie it in here. Then we have a nice CDC wing. You can use other materials as well here, it's not really that important, it's CDC. I just prefer that because it floats well. You can use maybe fox hair that you impregnate with some kind of dry fly floating if you prefer that. So use whatever you have, but CDC looks nice and it gives some flotation to the fly as well. As you'll notice, I still have a bare shank here, and that's where we need to put in the deer hair. It's quite important to choose a deer hair that's not too thick in the fibers. I prefer one called short and fine. You can select this in any fly shop, and you'll find this kind of material. If you look through a few bags, don't take some of the bags with very thick fibers, but that will not work on such a small fly. The thick fiber you can use for muddlers and maybe goddard sedge, which we'll be tying later. That will be fine, but not for a fly like this. Then you cut off a bunch of hair. This is a little bit too big, but I'll be pulling out some of the fibers. It's really important that you remove in this kind of hair, there's always some small, very thin hair in the bottom. It's almost like dubbing, and you need to remove that before you tie it in. And you probably pull out some hair as well, but that doesn't really matter because I've taken a pretty big bunch, so I'm not too worried about that. And now comes the tricky part. That's the only thing that's tricky about this fly actually. It's not that it's difficult to tie, but this is a little bit tricky. I need now to move this bunch of hair from my left hand to my right hand. And what I do, I put the hair between my thumbs, and then I have it in my right hand instead. That's pretty easy to do when you've tried it a few times. What I need to do now, I need to tie this in and just bend it backwards. But before I do that, I need to cut the tips off so I have an even bunch of hair. And I need to calculate, can you say, how long the fiber should be on this side. So I just have a look, see, okay, I'll try to calculate when I bend this back, it should not be too long there. I think it's just like that. And then you need to cut with your left hand. It sounds easy, it isn't. I'll just try. Okay, it worked. Now I'll move the tying thread up to the hook eye, and I'll put 2 loose wraps. I just need to put 2 loose wraps around the hair like that, and I can put it, remove my hand, just see if the length is okay. It's a little bit on the long side, if I should be honest here. Maybe I would prefer to have a little bit shorter, but I think I'll be okay with this. But maybe a little bit shorter than this. And then I do the trick here. And you need to do this fast. You can't do it slowly. You need to do this fast. Remove your left hand and do like that. If you do it too slow, all the fibers will be on one side, not all the way around. If you do it fast, the hair will be even all the way around the hook. If you look at here, you can see it looks more like a bit like a sun. The hair is really even distributed around the hook, and that's how I want it. Then you get a nice fly when it's done. What I want to do now is, this is maybe not, again, this is not important for the fish, but more for the fly tie, I think. I just try to pull all the hair forwards and then cut off a little bit of the short stumps you have here. It's not important that you cut off all of them, just a little bit so it looks nice. So remember, this also gives the fly a little bit of flotation, so we don't need to take it all off. Then I'll move a tying thread down to where we tied in the wing, like that. And then I'll take, this is a really neat kind of small tool. It's just a plain straw, nothing else. It's a straw from one of the kids' birthday. Works really fine for fly tying as well. I'll do like that, push the hair backwards. The straw just helps me to get all the fibers evenly distributed. Normally I use a straw that's a little bit thicker so I can get it all over the deer hair, but it's okay. So, and here we are. I'll make 2 loose wraps like that and pull it tight. And you have a small bullet. If you look in some of the American magazines and books, you will find a pattern called the bullet head modeler. This is actually just my version of a bullet head modeler. I just use this as a caddis fly instead. So this is actually, yeah, this is a really small bullet head modeler. You can tie this down to size 16. What we could do now, the fly is actually finished. I'll just cut off some of the fibers on the underside of the fly, so this will float correctly, even it will float correctly all the time. Just cut off a few fibers more so it's flat on the underside. We could finish the fly now and it will be fine, but you can also, I do this quite often actually, just use it as it is now. But I could put on some rubber legs as well. Then you could call this Madam X or something like that. It's just a neat small thing to do. Probably looks like legs on the fly or something. So I'll put on some rubber legs on this one. You can choose any kind of rubber legs. I prefer some that's pretty thin because it's a small fly and it's a dry fly. I don't want to make the fly too heavy. So thin legs. Maybe barred like these, it looks nice, but it's not, as I said again, it's not maybe that important for the fish, but it looks good, and that's important for the fly tie at least. It's really easy to tie in these legs. I just put one, I just turn the vise a little bit and put the first one in on that side, let it hang there. Turn the vise to the other side. I'll tie that one in there. Take a look if it's evenly placed, so it looks nice, like an X. When you view it from this side, you can see it looks like an X. I just cut. These are too long. I'll just cut them so they have the more or less the same length. Maybe that was a little bit too long still. That was better. I prefer that the back, the legs in the backs are slightly longer than the legs in the front. I don't really know why, but it looks nice. And then the fly is finished. And then again, you can use your whip finish, or you can do like me. Just make some half turns. 1, 2, 3. We're done. Just place the legs where you want them, and then you can put on some varnish, and the fly is finished. Should we call it maybe a bullet head sedge, or whatever? You can call it whatever you want, or maybe a Madam X. That's a lot of these flies have a lot of different names depending on the fly tyer making it. I think we should call it the bullet head sedge, or bullet head caddis. Here we are, it's done.